The school year went by quickly. Danny did excellent work in his classes. His daily visits with Raja and Rani gave him a way to relax and stay motivated. The tigers grew into young adults. They were huge and powerful now. Their coats shined with health. When they moved, it looked like liquid grace. They had become station celebrities. Their habitat was one of the most visited places on Zenith. As graduation got closer, Danny faced a hard choice. His next assignment was to the Coalition cruiser Horizon. It was a deep space mission that would last 3 years. He could not take Raja and Rani with him. He talked about options with the habitat director. Her name was Vela. She was a kind Keswick who had grown to love the tigers during their time there. "They can stay here," Vela promised him. "We have staff trained to take care of them. They will be comfortable and have things to keep them interested." "But I will not see them," Danny said. The words felt heavy. "You will come back, and there is another possibility." Vela pulled up information on her screen. Several schools have asked about hosting Earth predators for cultural exchange programs. Raja and Rani could become ambassadors. They could teach other species about Earth's wildlife while living in excellent places. Danny thought about this. The idea of his tigers helping others understand Earth, building bridges between species, felt right to him. They would have good lives, the best, and you could visit when your assignments let you. They would not be forgotten, Danny Martinez. They have made too strong an impression for that. On graduation day, the Academy held its ceremony in the Grand Hall. The ceiling showed a view of the stars beyond the station. 147 students stood in neat rows. They represented 23 different species. Danny stood among them. His dress uniform was clean and crisp. He stood proud and straight. Admiral Courtval gave the speech to start the ceremony. His words were carried by translators to every listener. "You have trained together, learned together, grown together. You represent the best of the coalition, diverse, capable, united in purpose. As you leave this academy to serve on ships and stations across known space, remember what you learned here about cooperation, understanding, and the strength found in difference." Names were called. Students walked forward to get their assignments and awards. When Danny's name echoed through the hall, he walked to the stage with measured steps. "Cadet Daniel Martinez," Admiral Courtval said, and something in his voice made everyone lean forward to listen. "Your academic record is excellent. Your tactical scores put you in the top 10% of your class. Your reviews from other students show exceptional leadership and people skills." Danny stood at attention, heart beating fast. "But your most important contribution to this academy cannot be measured in test scores." The Admiral made a gesture, and the view of stars changed. Now it showed images of Raja and Rani throughout the year, as cubs on Danny's desk, playing in the habitat, interacting through the viewing windows with other students. "You brought tigers to Zenith. In doing so, you taught us about the human ability to form bonds with the most unlikely companions. You created a gathering place where students of different species learn to see past their differences. You showed that following rules and pushing boundaries are not opposites." The Admiral's 6 eyes fixed on Danny. "You have set a precedent, Cadet Martinez. Next year, we will see other students asking approval for unusual companions. They will mention your example. The rules are being changed even now to allow what you have started." A pause, then, "Assigned to Coalition Cruiser Horizon as Junior Tactical Officer. Congratulations, Lieutenant Martinez." The hall exploded with applause, a huge sound that crossed species barriers. Danny saluted, accepted his commission papers, and returned to his place with his mind spinning. After the ceremony, as students mixed with families and friends, Danny went to the Habitat Complex one last time as a student. The viewing area was empty. The crowd was at the graduation party elsewhere. Raja and Rani rested in their favorite spot, a sun-warmed rock overlooking their territory. When Danny entered the habitat using his access code, they stood up right away and ran to him. They almost knocked him over with their enthusiasm. "Hey, you two," he said, wrapping his arms around them as much as he could. They were huge now. Each one weighed about 200 pounds of muscle and power. "I have to go away for a while, but you will be okay. You will help other people understand where we come from. You will live good lives, and I will visit whenever I can." Raja made a chuffing sound. His breath was warm on Danny's face. Ronnie rubbed against him, purring so loudly he felt it in his bones. "You are kings," Danny whispered. "You have always been kings. You lay on my desk like you owned it because you did. And now you own this whole habitat. Eventually you will own whatever place you end up in. That is just who you are." He stayed for an hour, playing with them one last time. He tried to remember every detail. Then, with a final hug and the promise to return, he left them to their kingdom. As he walked through the corridors of Station Zenith for the last time as a student, he passed groups of first-year students getting ready for their orientation. He heard one of them, a young Vrel Nari, asking about companion animal rules. "Oh, you can bring almost anything now," another replied. "There was a human who brought tigers last year, real tigers. If he could make that work, imagine what else is possible." Danny smiled and kept walking. Behind him in their habitat, Raja and Ronnie lay on their rock. They looked out over their domain with golden eyes. They were exactly where they belonged, at the top, looking down, kings in fact and bearing. And somewhere in the future, on ships and stations across Coalition space, other humans would bring their own unusual companions, their own bonds with unlikely creatures, their own proof that strength came not from control, but from partnership. The example was set, the path was shown, the legacy was established. Every cadet's desk would still have puppies and kittens, those traditional companions. But now there would be other desks, human desks, with creatures that lay like kings and reminded the galaxy that Earth's children brought with them not just technology and tactics, but a unique gift for forming bonds with the wild and wonderful things of their world. And in those bonds, the Coalition would find a strength it had never known before. Years later, when people talked about the integration of humanity into the Coalition, they would mention battles won and treaties signed. They would talk about human innovation and bravery. But some would also remember a young cadet named Danny Martinez. They would remember his tigers, Raja and Ronnie, who lay on a desk like kings and changed the way the galaxy thought about companionship, trust, and the bridges that could be built across the vast differences between species. The human who brought tigers to the stars, and in doing so, brought something even more valuable, hope that understanding was always possible, that friendship could bloom in the most unlikely places, that the future was bright because it would be built by beings who knew how to form bonds across the boundaries of fear. Raja and Ronnie lived long lives as ambassadors. They traveled to different worlds. They met thousands of beings from dozens of species. They were always calm, always regal, always looking like the kings they were. And Danny kept his promise. No matter where his service took him, he found time to visit, to sit with them, to remember the year they all spent together, learning what it meant to be part of something bigger than themselves. The legacy of the tigers who lounged like kings lived on, generation after generation, a reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures of friendship could change the entire galaxy. The day came when Raja and Ronnie had to move. They had grown so much. Each tiger now weighed about 90 pounds. Their baby softness was gone, replaced by teenage muscle. The room that once seemed big enough for them was now too small. Danny had spent weeks getting them ready for their new home. The habitat complex took up a whole section of Station Zenith. It was a wonder of technology and engineering. It could create any environment that visiting aliens might need. Now, For the first time, it would be a permanent home for a student's companion animals. Danny had worked hard to get a large space with different climate zones, things to keep the tigers interested, and viewing windows where he could spend time with them. Moving day brought a crowd. Word had spread, as it always did. Dozens of students gathered to watch. Raja and Rani walked between Danny and a professional handler from the station. They did not need leashes. They had been trained to follow commands. They moved with the easy confidence of creatures who knew they were safe. The habitat door stood ahead, a pressure door that led to the controlled environment inside. Danny's heart felt tight in his chest. He had known this day would come. He had prepared for it. But actually doing it was hard. "This is where you will live now," he told the tigers, getting down to their level. "It is bigger, better for you. I will visit every day, I promise." Raja bumped his head against Danny's chest hard enough to almost knock him over. It was a sign of love. Rani rubbed against his side, purring so loud that the watching students could hear it. The handler, a Vrelnari who specialized in exotic life forms, made a gesture. "The space is ready. Should we go in?" Danny stood up, straightened his uniform, and led his tigers through the door. The habitat was amazing. One part looked like an earth jungle, with real trees, a small stream, and the right temperature and humidity. Another part had rocky areas perfect for lying in the sun under special lights. A third part was cool shelter for hot days. Things to play with and explore were everywhere. Puzzle feeders, scratching posts, climbing structures. Raja and Rani started exploring right away. Their instincts kicked in as they checked every corner of their new territory. Danny watched with both pride and sadness mixed together. "They will do very well here," the handler told him, "and you can visit during set hours. They will not forget you." "I know," Danny said softly. Setting up the visiting routine took time. Danny came every day, spending an hour with Raja and Rani. He kept up their training. He played with them. He was just there with them. Other students started asking if they could watch, until the habitat became an unexpected social meeting place. Lyra visited often, bringing her pocket squeakers to show the tigers. The tiny animals were perfectly safe because the viewing windows gave complete protection. Rani seemed especially interested in watching the squeakers move. Throck came too, though he said he was only studying predator behavior for tactical reasons. Danny noticed he always stayed for the full hour. Even Sivrex came, with Whisper sitting on his shoulder. The silk wing's shiny wings caught the light. "They are magnificent in this space," he said, watching the tigers move. "They move like water, like living poetry." "That is tigers for you," Danny agreed, "built for power and grace." The habitat became a small version of coalition cooperation. Different species gathered together, united by interest in these earth predators and the human who had made friends with them. Conversations ranged from tiger behavior to cultural differences to what they wanted to do with their careers. Admiral Kortval himself visited one afternoon. His 6 eyes took in the scene. Danny was inside the space playing with Raja and Rani while a diverse group of students watched and talked. "Lieutenant Commander Vexnar," the Admiral said quietly. "Come here." They stood at the viewing window. Inside, Danny had brought out a large ball. The tigers were taking turns jumping on it while he laughed and encouraged them. "What do you see?" the Admiral asked. Vexnar thought carefully. "I see a human keeping bonds with creatures most species would fear. I see other students learning that differences can be bridges instead of barriers. I see the future of the coalition, perhaps." "Yes." The Admiral's voice held satisfaction. "When humanity asked to join us, there were concerns. They were warriors, yes, but also impulsive, emotional. They formed attachments that seemed illogical. Some questioned whether they would fit our orderly ways. And now, sir? Now I see a human who brought tigers to an academy and somehow made it work. who follows every rule while bending the spirit of careful convention, who creates community around difference. The Admiral paused. Humanity will change the coalition. This is now clear. Whether that change is positive depends on individuals like Cadet Martinez. Inside the habitat, Raja had stolen the ball and was lying on it like a prize while Ronnie walked around him, getting ready to jump. Danny watched with obvious joy, calling encouragement to both tigers. The gathered students laughed. The sound carried through the viewing ports, a harmony of different species united in a moment of shared happiness. "The reports from Earth," Vexnar said. "They say humans have domesticated many predators throughout their history. Dogs from wolves, cats from wildcats, even birds that hunt, trained to work alongside them. This is correct. And now they bring tigers to the stars. What comes next?" The Admiral's translator captured his amused tone. "With humans? Impossible to predict. That is their greatest strength and our greatest challenge." Inside the habitat, Danny had joined in the play. He was gently wrestling with both tigers at once, all three of them tumbling across the soft ground. The tigers were careful with him, their strength held back, their teeth never quite touching his skin. It was trust made visible, partnership made real. The students watching pressed closer to the windows, not wanting to miss a moment. Some took pictures, others just watched, their faces showing wonder. "They really are like kings," Lyra said softly. "Look how they move, so confident, so powerful." "The human treats them as equals," Throck observed, "not as servants or possessions, as partners in life." "Is that not what all companion animals should be?" Sivrex asked. The question hung in the air as the three species looked at each other, then back at the habitat where a human and two tigers played together under alien stars. Perhaps, they thought, there was something to learn from this. Something about how bonds could form across vast differences. Something about how trust could grow between the most unlikely pairs. Danny emerged from the habitat an hour later, slightly disheveled but smiling. Raja and Ronnie watched him go from their favorite spot on the warm rocks. They would miss him until tomorrow, but they knew he would return. He always did. As Danny walked back to his quarters, he passed groups of students talking excitedly about what they had seen. He heard his name mentioned. He heard the word tigers said with awe and respect. He smiled and kept walking. Tomorrow he would visit again, and the day after that, and every day until his duties took him elsewhere. Behind him, in their new kingdom, Raja and Ronnie settled down for an afternoon nap, lying on their rocks like the kings they had always been. The Galactic Naval Academy sat on Station Zenith, floating in deep space like a silver jewel. For hundreds of years, young beings from across the galaxy came here to learn how to serve in the Coalition fleet. The halls were always busy with students from different worlds, each one looking strange and wonderful to the others. Lieutenant Commander Vexnar had been teaching at the academy for 20 years. He was of Relnari, which meant he had 4 eyes and skin that looked like smooth blue glass. Today he was doing something he did every year at this time. He was checking to make sure all the new students had brought proper companion animals with them. The rules were simple. Students could bring small pets from home. These animals helped the young people feel less lonely while they were so far from their families. Most students brought safe, quiet creatures. The Vrelnari students had floaters, which were like living clouds that drifted through the air. The Keswick students had pocket squeakers, tiny furry things that fit in your hand and made musical sounds. The Thoral students, even though they were big and scary-looking, kept silk wings, which were like butterflies made of rainbows. When humans joined the Coalition 5 years ago, everyone wondered what kind of pets they would bring. The answer made sense. Puppies and kittens, small dogs and cats that were cute and cuddly, perfect companion animals. Nothing surprising. Vexnar walked down the hallway, checking his list. He had already visited 15 student rooms. Everything was normal. Then he reached the door that belonged to Danny Martinez, the only human in this year's group of new students. He pressed the button to ring the bell. A voice called out from inside, cheerful and young. "Come in." The door slid open with a soft sound. Vexnar stepped inside, holding his electronic pad, ready to check off another normal inspection. Then he stopped walking. His 4 eyes went wide. His mouth opened, but no words came out. On the desk, taking up most of the space, were 2 tiger cubs. Not pictures of tigers. Not toy tigers. Real, actual, living tiger cubs. They had orange fur with black stripes. They had paws the size of Vexnar's hands. They had teeth that were already sharp and would get much sharper. Each cub weighed about as much as a large bag of grain. One of the cubs opened its mouth in a big yawn. Vexnar could see all of its teeth. The other cub stared at him with golden eyes that seemed to look right through him. Both cubs were lying down like they owned the room, like they were kings, and everyone else was just visiting their palace. "Good morning, sir," Danny said. He was standing next to his bed, straight and proper like a good student. He looked normal for a human. Average height, dark hair, a friendly smile on his face. "I am ready for inspection." Vexnar's translator box, which turned his words into sounds that humans could understand, took a moment to start working. His brain was too surprised. "Cadet Martinez, your companions." "Raja and Rani, sir," Danny said, and his face showed how proud he was. "Brother and sister. They are 8 weeks old. They are doing really well here." "I can see that," Vexnar said slowly. He walked closer, but carefully. The cubs watched him but did not move. They just kept lying there, relaxed, but somehow powerful at the same time. "The rules say companion animals, small, safe creatures that make students feel better." "Yes, sir. Tigers are great companion animals. Very loving. Great for making you feel better." "They are predators," Vexnar said. "Hunters. Killers." "Well, yes," Danny said, like this was obvious. "But so are house cats, if you think about it." "These are just bigger house cats." Vexnar looked at his electronic pad. He searched through all the rules, looking for something that said students could not bring tigers. The problem was, Danny had filled out every form correctly. The file showed that the cubs had all their medicine shots. It showed papers from Earth saying the tigers were raised around humans and were safe. It even had a letter from a scientist who studied animals, confirming that these particular tigers were trained to be gentle. "The size limit," Vexnar said, but his voice was weak. "The rule says the animal has to be right for the species of the student, sir. These are right for a human. We have lived with big cats for thousands of years. It is part of our culture." This was actually true. Vexnar had read about humans when he learned one was coming to his class. Humans were strange when it came to animals. Most species in the galaxy made friends with prey animals or small, harmless creatures. Humans had somehow made friends with wolves and turned them into dogs. They kept snakes, which were dangerous. They made friends with creatures that could hurt them or even kill them. The cub named Raja stretched his body long, making a sound that was part purr and part growl. The vibration was so deep that Vexnar felt it in his chest, even though he was standing across the room. "They are small now," Vexnar pointed out, trying to find a problem. "They will grow much bigger." "The room can fit them, sir. I did all the math and sent it in with my papers, and they will only be here for my first year. After that, they move to the habitat complex." Danny had an answer for everything. Vexnar looked at the documents again. It was all there. Danny had thought of every question before anyone asked it. He had filed every paper. He had gotten every signature he needed. The habitat complex, which was usually for visiting aliens who needed special environments, had already said yes to giving the tigers a large space when they got too big for the student room. "Very well," Vexnar finally said, making a note on his pad. Approved, but only if they behave well and you take proper care of them. Thank you, sir. Danny's smile got even bigger. As Vexnar walked toward the door, he heard Danny talking to the cubs in a soft, sweet voice, the kind of voice humans used with babies and pets. Who got approved to stay? You did. Yes, you did. Good babies! Vexnar left the room and closed the door behind him. He stood in the hallway for a moment, thinking. Then he filed his report and added a personal note at the end. Watch this situation closely. This will either be a disaster or the most interesting thing to happen at the Academy in years. He walked away, shaking his head. In all his years of teaching, he had never seen anything like this. A human student with tiger cubs. Tigers that lay around like royalty, calm and powerful at the same time. The other instructors would not believe him when he told them. But it was all there in the official report. The human had brought tigers to space. And somehow, according to all the rules and regulations, it was completely allowed. Vexnar wondered what would happen next. With humans, he was learning. You could never really predict anything. They did things their own way. They made friends with predators. They found ways to follow all the rules while still doing something nobody expected. One thing was certain. This year at the Academy was going to be very different from all the years before. The alarm went off at 3 in the morning. The loud sound cut through the darkness and pulled everyone from sleep. Students jumped out of their beds, their training taking over. They knew what to do. Get to the emergency meeting area, fast. Station Zenith had clear rules. All people go to safe zones. All companion animals go into approved carriers. No exceptions, no delays. Danny's fingers moved quickly. He reached for Raja first. The cub was sleepy and grumpy about being woken up. He did not want to go into the transport container. Danny had to push him gently, talking in a soft voice. Come on, buddy. Just for a little while. Raja finally went in, making an unhappy sound. Ronnie was better about it. She walked into her container with just a small growl. Good kids, Danny said quietly, closing both containers and locking them. Just a drill. Probably. He picked up both carriers. They were heavy, but his training had made him strong. He joined the stream of students moving through the hallways toward the central meeting area. All around him, other species held their own carriers, floating spheres with cloud creatures inside, small boxes with squeaking sounds coming from them, clear tubes with colorful bird-like animals. The meeting area filled up fast. Teachers moved through the crowd with scanning devices, checking that everyone had followed the rules. Danny put the carriers down and stood straight, breathing a bit hard from running but otherwise fine. Vexnar came over with his scanner. He moved it over the tiger containers. Green lights showed that everything was good. Proper seals. Enough air. The cubs were stressed, but okay. Well done, Cadet Martinez, Vexnar said, making a note. Time from alarm to here, 4 minutes, 18 seconds. Thank you, sir. A loud voice near the door caught everyone's attention. Cadet Sivrex, a Thoral first-year student, was arguing with Instructor Balkir. His voice carried across the whole area. I need to go back. I forgot whisper. No, Balkir's translator made his clicking sounds into words. The drill is happening. All people are accounted for. But my silk wing is still there. Will be brought out after the all clear. Balkir's tone said he would not change his mind. Emergency rules do not allow going back to dangerous areas for companion animals. Sivrex looked terrible. His scales changed through colors that showed he was upset and ashamed. For a Thoral, leaving a bonded companion behind was a serious dishonor, even for a short time. Around the meeting area, other students whispered to each other. This would follow Sivrex for a long time. People would remember. Danny looked down at his carriers. Raja and Ronnie watched him through the strong panels. Their golden eyes reflected the emergency lights. They were calm. They trusted him. They knew he would keep them safe. An idea came to Danny. It was a bit risky, but it might help. "Sir," Danny said to Vexenar quietly, "permission to speak with Cadet Sivrex." Vexenar's 4 eyes got narrow. "Why?" "I think I can help, sir, if he says it is okay." After thinking for a moment, Vexenar nodded. "Go ahead, but this is not normal." Danny walked over to Sivrex, who stood away from the others, clearly miserable. "Hey, I am sorry about Whisper." Sivrex's translator made his response sound bitter. "You do not understand. To forget my companion, to leave them behind, it is a great shame among my people." "I get it. Different culture, same feeling. We are responsible for those who trust us." Danny paused. "But here is the thing. This was an emergency drill. They are made to test us when we are stressed. You made it here on time, right?" "Yes, but I left Whisper behind." "And in a real emergency, your first job is to save yourself so you can save others later. Whisper is in your room, safe. The teachers will get all the secured animals once the drill is over. You did not abandon anyone. You followed rules that exist to keep everyone alive." Sivrex's scales shifted colors, showing he was confused now instead of just ashamed. "You truly think this?" "I do, and I will tell you something else. Next drill, you will be ready. You will have your carrier set up and ready to go. You will practice your routine. You will get Whisper secured faster than anyone else. This mistake will make you better." Danny pointed to his own carriers. "I practiced emergency drills with Raja and Rani for weeks before we left Earth. Not because I thought I would need it, but because being ready meant I could protect them no matter what." Some of the normal color came back to Sivrex's scales. "You are wise for someone so young." "Nah, I just have experience making mistakes and learning from them. Ask me about the time I tried to give the tigers a bath in my parents' house." The all-clear sound went off before Sivrex could ask about the bath story. Teachers started letting students go back to their rooms to check on their companions and write reports about the drill. As Danny picked up his carriers, Sivrex touched his arm with a scaled hand. "Thank you, Danny Martinez. Your words have honor in them." Back in his room, Danny let Raja and Rani out of their containers. They stretched, shook themselves, and went right back to their usual spots on his desk, like nothing had happened. Danny scratched behind Raja's ears. The cub made a deep, rumbling purr. "You two did great," he said quietly. The door chimed. "Come in." Vexenar walked in. His face was hard to read. "Cadet Martinez, your talk with Cadet Sivrex was observed." "Yes, sir. I hope I did not step out of line." "No, you did the opposite. Your help stopped a good student from falling into shame-focused thinking that could have hurt his performance for the rest of the year." Vexenar walked closer to the desk where the cubs lay. "I am starting to understand something about humans." "Sir?" "Your ability to care extends beyond your own species. You make friends with predators, yes, but you also recognize when beings completely different from you are in emotional pain. You gave Cadet Sivrex what he needed. A different way to look at things and validation that he was not a failure." Vexenar's 4 eyes looked at Danny carefully. "This is a valuable trait in a coalition officer." "I just tried to help, sir." "Yes, you did." Vexenar made another note on his pad. "The tigers are growing well. They will need to move to the habitat complex within 2 months." "I know, sir. I am getting them ready for the change." After Vexenar left, Danny sat at his desk. The tigers were on both sides of him like furry bookends. He pulled up his homework and settled into his familiar routine. Raja yawned, showing all his developing teeth, then rested his head on Danny's arm. In the hallway outside, other students walked by, their voices mixed together. One voice, clearly Lyra, said, "Did you see how calm his tigers were during the drill? They trust him completely." Another voice, probably Throck, "The human trains his predators well. There is strength in that bond." Danny smiled and went back to his studies. His unusual companions lounged like kings around him. News traveled fast on Station Zenith. By the next morning, everyone knew. The human had tigers, real tigers, living in his room, lying on his desk like they were in charge of everything. Within 3 days, students found all kinds of reasons to walk past Danny's section of the student housing. Some said they needed to borrow study books. Others said they wanted to talk about homework. Most of them just wanted to see the tigers with their own eyes. Cadet Lyra was one of the first to visit properly. She was a Keswick, which meant she had purple fur all over her body and eyes that were bigger than human eyes. She was small, even for her species. She stood in the doorway, looking at Raja and Rani, with her mouth hanging open. "May I come in?" she asked in a quiet voice. "Of course." Danny waved his hand, inviting her inside. "They are friendly." "Well, friendly if they know you are a friend." Lyra walked in slowly, taking small steps. She was so short that she only came up to Danny's chest. The tigers, even though they were still young, were almost as big as she was when they stood up. Raja lifted his head, smelled the air, then put his head back down for another nap. Rani was more interested. Her golden eyes followed Lyra as the small alien moved closer. "They are beautiful," Lyra whispered. "Are all Earth predators this calm?" Danny laughed. "Not at all. These two are special. They were raised by hand since they were babies. They have been around people their whole lives. They have training. It takes a lot of work." He pointed to the corner where he kept training tools. There were poles with targets on them, boxes with puzzles inside, and clickers that made sounds. "We practice every day. Tigers are smart. They need things to think about and do." "Can I touch one?" "Sure. Ronnie is the one who likes meeting new people more. Let her smell your hand first." Lyra put out her hand, shaking just a little bit. Ronnie leaned forward. Her nose moved as she smelled this new creature. Then she seemed happy with what she smelled, and she pushed her head against Lyra's hand. Lyra's face changed completely. She looked so happy she might cry. "She is so soft and warm. Go ahead and scratch behind her ears. She loves that." While Lyra carefully petted the tiger cub, Danny saw more faces looking in from the doorway. Other students had come to watch. They wanted to see what would happen. "Does anyone else want to meet them?" Danny called out. That was all it took. By the end of the day, half of the first-year students had come through Danny's room. Each one got a chance to meet Raja and Rani, as long as Danny was watching to keep everyone safe. The cubs were surprisingly patient. They seemed to understand that they were representing Earth. They let people pet them and scratch them and take pictures with them. Not everyone thought this was good. Cadet Throck was a Thoral, which meant he was 7 feet tall and had scales like black metal. He watched everything with doubt in his eyes. "You let them control your living space," Throck said, his voice deep and rumbling. "A warrior should not share territory with possible enemies." Danny thought about this. "I do not see them as enemies. They are family." "Family?" Throck's crest on his head raised up, showing he was confused. "They are animals. Strong, yes, but still just animals. Humans have a saying, 'A dog is man's best friend.' We feel that way about lots of animals. These tigers? They trust me completely. I trust them completely. That is not about one of us being in charge. That is about being partners." Throck stared at the cubs. They were playing now. Raja jumped on his sister while she pretended to be asleep. "Your species makes friends with predators." "With anything that shows us loyalty and love, yeah. Predators, prey animals, even things that could kill us if they wanted to. We had a guy on Earth who kept crocodiles as pets. Now those are really dangerous." "I do not understand humans," Throck admitted. "Join the club," Danny said with a smile. "We do not always understand ourselves either." By the end of the first month, Raja and Rani were famous on the station. Students would walk the long way to class just to pass by Danny's door, hoping to see the tigers. The station's social network was full of pictures of the growing cubs. In every picture, they looked so relaxed, even though they were surrounded by aliens from other worlds. They would lie around, sleep, stretch, yawn, and look at everyone like they were the kings and everyone else was just visiting. Lieutenant Commander Vexnar watched all of this happen. Part of him was worried, but nothing bad had happened. Danny was getting good grades while taking care of his unusual pets. The cubs behaved well. They were properly fed and cared for. Other students seemed happier because of them. Still, Vexnar could not shake a feeling. Something was changing. The way other students looked at Danny was different now. They respected him, yes. But there was also something else, a kind of careful admiration, the human who walked with tigers. During a meeting with the other teachers, Vexnar talked to Admiral Courtval, who was in charge of the whole academy. "The situation is under control," he reported, "but the effect on the other students is significant. They see Cadet Martinez with his tigers, and it changes how they think about humans." "What do you mean?" the Admiral asked. "They think humans are brave, that humans are hard to predict, that humans make friends with dangerous things and somehow it works." Vexnar paused. "That humans should not be thought of as weak." Admiral Courtval was a Vrel Nari elder with 6 eyes and hundreds of years of experience. He made a thoughtful sound. "Is this a problem?" "I am not sure yet, sir." "Then keep watching. If humans are going to be part of the coalition, we need to understand what they bring to us, including their strange way of making friends with animals." Back in his room, Danny sat at his desk with the tigers on either side of him like furry guards. He was doing his homework, falling into his normal routine. Raja opened his mouth in a huge yawn, showing all his growing teeth, then put his head down on Danny's arm. Outside in the hallway, other students walked by. Their voices mixed together, different languages and translator boxes all talking at once. One voice, definitely Lyra, said, "Did you see how calm his tigers were during class today? They trust him so much." Another voice, maybe Throck, "The human trains his predators well. There is strength in that kind of friendship." Danny smiled and went back to his homework. His unusual companions lay around him like the kings they were.